In the 1970s, Canadian film critic Robin Wood described horror movies as our collective nightmares because they express society's greatest fear, that widely accepted social norms could be threatened by the emergence of a previously repressed monster. But Wood also acknowledged that horror was the most disreputable of Hollywood genres, looked down on by reviewers and mocked by audiences. He wrote, "People tend to go to horror films either obsessively or not at all." Jordan Peele is an Oscar and Emmy-winning director, writer, actor, producer, and founder of Monkeypaw Productions. The critically acclaimed blockbuster, Get Out, Peele's first feature film, received 4 Academy Award nominations in 2017, including Best Picture. Peele won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for the movie. When it was released in March 2019 to overwhelmingly positive reviews, his second feature, Us, shattered multiple box office records and had the biggest opening for an R-rated original film in history. In the summer of 2022, Jordan Peele's third film, the original horror epic Nope, debuted to positive reviews, took the top spot at the box office, and once again became a highly discussed cultural sensation. So what makes Jordan Peele an auteur? Peele has a genuine passion for genre, particularly the horror genre. Through the eyes of his protagonist, satirical tales that explore larger themes, ideas, and social problems are woven into the genre-based structures of his films. Because of how boldly and directly he tells his stories, Peele often requires his audiences to face their own fears and insecurities. Black horror is a broad subgenre that, amongst other things, reclaims the Black community's position in a film tradition where they are frequently the first to perish or are portrayed as the monster. The success of Peele's films show that Black moviegoers increase ticket sales when they see themselves reflected by the characters on screen. As a result of Get Out's success, according to Tananarive Due, a Black horror specialist who lectures at the University of California, Los Angeles, executives took notice, paving the way for a Black-led horror revival that includes movies like the 2021 reboot of Candyman. As Due explained, Get Out isn't for Black people. Nope isn't for Black people. It's expressing a Black experience. I never would have thought of writing or directing a piece that was so much more centered in a community and in a voice. And when I saw Get Out, it completely shifted how I thought I could tell a story before, said Karen Lam, a Chinese-Canadian filmmaker based in Vancouver. As a filmmaker, Peele has identified Steven Spielberg, Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, and M. Night Shyamalan as his primary influences. Rosemary's Baby, Night of the Living Dead, The Shining, Candyman, The People Under the Stairs, Scream, The Silence of the Lambs, Funny Games, Misery, the thrillers Rear Window and The Burbs, and the comedy drama Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. These films comprise the Brooklyn Academy of Music film series, The Art of the Social Thriller. This collection was curated by Jordan Peele in 2017, who cited them as inspirations behind the making of Get Out. Chris travels upstate with his girlfriend Rose to spend the weekend with her parents. Chris initially interprets the family's overly accommodating behavior as anxious attempts to deal with their daughter's interracial relationship, but as the weekend goes on, a sequence of increasingly disturbing revelations leads him to a truth that he never could have imagined. One of the main factors contributing to the white characters in the film's fascination with Chris is his perceived dominance. Get Out defies the stereotype that racism is the belief that one race is inferior by demonstrating how the white character's interest in Black bodies is more closely connected to jealousy and covetousness than it is to condescension. Dean informs Chris that Black runner Jesse Owens beat his father in the 1936 Olympic qualifying competition. Throughout dinner, Chris receives numerous compliments on a variety of attributes, including his body and his artistic ability as a photographer. In order to transfer a Black person's talent to a white person's awareness, the Armitage's technique involves implanting a white brain into a Black body. Jim Hudson wishes to have his brain implanted into Chris's skull, so that he may observe and capture images using Chris's skills. The character of Rose was written by Jordan Peele as a subversion of the white savior cliché, especially in movies where the majority of white characters are bad, but one is good. According to Peele and Allison Williams, who portrayed the character, Rose's emotional growth was delayed, which caused her to act like a teenager. Williams believed that Rose was purely evil and not a victim of indoctrination, hypnosis, or Stockholm Syndrome. With hunting jodhpurs, a white dress shirt, and a sleek ponytail, Rose changes from her earlier soft and welcoming appearance to a vision of cold, meticulous elitism after her true intentions are discovered. She also displays photos of her ex-partners on her wall like hunting trophies. As Lanra Bakare wrote in The Guardian, the villains here aren't southern rednecks or neo-Nazi skinheads or the so-called alt-right. They're middle-class white liberals, the kind of people who read this website, the kind of people who shop at Trader Joe's, donate to the ACLU, and would have voted for Obama a third time if they could. The thing Get Out does so well, and the thing that will rankle with some viewers, is to show how, however unintentionally, these same people can make life so hard and uncomfortable for Black people. It exposes a liberal ignorance and hubris that has been allowed to fester. It's an attitude, an arrogance, which in the film leads to a horrific final solution, but in reality leads to a complacency that is just as dangerous. Peele has said about the film, the real thing at hand here is slavery. It's some dark shit. Peele has stated that the character of Hudson, who should be the furthest from racist due to his blindness, still plays a part in the system of racism. And the way it manifests in that movie is, a guy who believes that the eye of this better artist, this Black artist, is what's separating him from being a success or a failure, which also, to me, is a commentary on a sentiment I was hearing a lot during the Obama era, this whole mythology of a purported advantage of being Black in this culture. The movie additionally demonstrates how little effort is made to locate missing Black Americans in comparison to locating missing white girls and women. The film's premise, according to Slate's Damon Young, is depressingly plausible. Although Black people only comprise 13% of Americans' population, they are 34% of America's missing, a reality that exists as a result of a melange of racial and socioeconomic factors, rendering Black lives demonstratively less valuable than the lives of our white counterparts. The Wilson family travels to Santa Cruz, California for a getaway from their busy lives with the intention of visiting their close friends, the Tyler family. Their young son Jason nearly wanders off on a day at the shore, resulting in Adelaide, Jason's mother, becoming more protective of her family. 4 enigmatic individuals break into Adelaide's childhood house, where they are staying that same evening. The family is horrified to discover that the intruders resemble them, but with grotesque appearances. Jim Vejvoda, a film critic, compared the Morlocks in H.G. Wells' 1895 book The Time Machine to the Tethered, claimed that they shared a xenophobic paranoia about the other, and a similarity to urban legends. The Tethered are effigies of the same form of situational classism, according to journalist Noel Ransom, who saw the movie as being about the effects of classism and marginalization. They are neglected and trapped both psychologically and physically. The Tethered are an excellent representation of the dichotomy in American society, where some people can afford to exist above the class structure while others are shackled to poverty, according to Joel Mears of Rotten Tomatoes, who also used the phrase, "We are Americans," in this observation. He added that the title Us could allude to the US, or the United States. The Wilsons are introduced with an aerial sweep of greenery, similar to the beginning of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, according to Manohla Dargis of the New York Times, who believes that film to be Us's predominant influence. She calls Peele a true cinephile and notes references to other movies such as Jaws, Nightmare on Elm Street, and The Goonies, as well as one sequence that may have been influenced by the 1997 horror movie Funny Games and its American remake by Austrian director Michael Haneke. Along with the thriller shirt seen on young Adelaide, the red jumpsuits worn by the Tethered and single glove were allusions to Michael Jackson, who, according to Peele, was the patron saint of duality. The Lost Boys and Hands Across America were among the many other 1980s cultural references made by Peele, who claimed that everything in this movie was deliberate. That is one thing I can guarantee you. Unless you didn't like something, and that was a complete accident. The film contains numerous references to Jeremiah 11:11, which reads, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord, I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Although they cry out to me, I will not listen to them." Critic Rosie Fletcher made an observation about the context, noting that Jeremiah had forewarned Jerusalem that it was in danger of destruction because of false idols, and she asserted that the characters in the movie, including the virtual assistant Ophelia, also worshipped the wrong things. Later, Peele clarified that American privilege is a major theme of the movie. One of the central themes in Us is that we can do a good job collectively of ignoring the ramifications of privilege. I think it's the idea that what we feel like we deserve comes, at the expense of someone else's freedom or joy. The biggest disservice we can do as a faction with a collective privilege like the United States is to presume that we deserve it, and that it isn't luck that has us born where we're born. For us to have our privilege, someone suffers. That's where the tethered connection, I think, resonates the most, is that those who suffer and those who prosper are two sides of the same coin. You can never forget that we need to fight for the less fortunate. After the death of their father in a freak accident, siblings and animal wranglers Otis and Emerald Haywood, the young proprietors of the horse handling company Haywood Hollywood Horses, find themselves fighting to maintain their family property. Unaware that trouble is brewing, Otis, who is struggling to make ends meet, makes a deal with Jupiter's Claim amusement park's owner, Ricky Jupe Park, a troubled former child actor. When Otis believes he has had a close encounter of the second kind, his initial shock gives way to morbid curiosity, and without thinking twice, he enlists the aid of renowned cinematographer Antlers Holst and tech-savvy electronics salesperson Angel Torres to make history. But the intrepid explorers will see its true nature for themselves the next time the extraterrestrial guest appears. The movie has been described as having themes of exploitation and spectacle. Nope, according to GQ's Jarek D. Kennedy, is a movie about spectacle, more specifically, our addiction to spectacle. Nope is about holding a mirror up to all of us and our inability to look away from drama or peril. Kennedy adds that the movie heavily references the erasure of Black contributions to cinematic history. Nope was partially influenced by the COVID-19 lockdowns and the endless cycle of grim, inescapable tragedy in 2020, according to Peele. Nope is considered a movie about exploitation and the cinematic history of exploitation in movies, according to Richard Brody of The New Yorker. He stated that the movie's premise is acknowledging and extending cinema's legacy, while also redressing its omissions and misrepresentations of history. The action in the movie, according to Brody, pivots on the power and nature of movie technology, and in the scene where a TV commercial is being produced, Peele criticizes computer-generated imagery, or CGI. He writes, Peele presents CGI as a dubious temptation and a form of dangerous power. The decision to have the aliens attack a Black-owned horse property was seen by Brody as a sardonic vision of racism's universality. According to Jen Yamato of the Los Angeles Times, Stephen Yeun's Ricky Jupe Park makes an effort to capitalize on Jean Jacket through his Star Lasso Experience show because he mistakenly thinks that since he escaped the Gordy incident, he is akin to Jean Jacket. Despite their potential to be unpredictable and dangerous, Zosha Millman of Polygon contends that Jupe's view of Gordy and Jean Jacket as having good intentions contrasts with Daniel Kaluuya's OJ, who grew up around unruly animals that it was his job to tame. He understands that animals are deserving of our respect because he trains horses. However, it is not a part of a larger plan or the result of a unique bond with the animal. It's a beast, and it could harm you. But if you know what you're doing, you can tame it and benefit from it. Antlers Holst, a character played by Michael Wincott, mentions Siegfried and Roy, a team famous for training white lions and white tigers, in reference to Jupe's destiny. The latter, of course, was attacked and seriously hurt by one of his tigers. Game Revolution's Jason Faulkner further noted, Peele quoting Neon Genesis Evangelion's angels as the principal inspiration for the film and the monster within, and one of the true meanings of Jean Jacket's true form's resemblance to the biblical description of angels. He notes the verse from Nahum, prefacing the film as indicative of Peele's thoughts on the Bible, and how if one thinks about the way Jean Jacket feeds and the concept of people ascending to heaven, one can connect the dots that Jean Jacket's species has been with humanity for a long time, and an attack from one of the creatures could be misinterpreted as something from the divine. One of Jupe's co-stars' shoes mysteriously stood upright when Gordy was moving around the demolished Gordy's home set. As an adult, Jupe keeps the shoe on display in his room of Gordy's home memorabilia. Millman and Copperhood of Screen Rant speculate that the enigmatically standing shoe is an example of a bad miracle, a term OJ and Keke Palmer's Emerald use when they realize they appear to be dealing with a UFO. Due to the phenomenon's unexplained nature and the fact that it occurred in the midst of a catastrophe, according to Hood, the shoe standing up can be considered a bad miracle. As Jupe is making a profit off the collectible despite the misery of its circumstances, it fits with the movie's theme of turning terrible events into a show. Yamato, on the other hand, wonders if Gordy turned to Jupe in friendship just before being shot, or if Jupe merely imagined the shoe standing impossibly in the air. Jupe was exploited and then spit out by the Fame Machine, and this sets him up to make the fatal mistake of underestimating a creature that's too dangerous to wrangle, according to Yamato, who claims that Jupe has covered up his trauma from the incident under a veneer of capitalist hustle and humor. In addition to the scene itself being nominated for Best Scene at the 2022 St. Louis Gateway Film Critics Association Awards, Adam Naiman of The Ringer named it one of the best shots of 2022, comparing it favorably to Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam and equating it with the feeling to recoil from an outstretched hand, especially one powerful enough to rip you limb from limb. Throughout his writing and directing career, Jordan Peele's filmic sensibilities have valued genre stories with wider social commentary, told with a small cast in small towns and through the sympathetic eyes of its central protagonist. Visual poetry is threaded throughout each film. The scope of the stories he recounts has evolved. His films have featured bigger set pieces, more intricate action sequences, and larger set constructions, all of which are captured by more expensive filmmaking methods. Every rise in budget has been influenced by his expansion of the project's scope, all the way from his early days as a low-budget horror director to his recent work as the director of a sizable Hollywood blockbuster.